If you were to join World in Conversation, you would learn skills, but more importantly, you'd get a mindset. But the skills are also important, and one of the skills, just one, is how to ask questions. How to ask questions in a way that invites people to respond, as opposed to shutting them down. This image, which is from our online book, which you could read, and it's free. What this is showing you is the really simple piece of information, is that we never ask why questions, because why questions make people feel defensive, right? So why did you get home at 11 o'clock instead of 9, right? And there's a whole practice of how to get you to shift your mind so that you're always asking questions that start with either what or how. And those questions open up a story response versus either something defensive or a closed-ended question, which is getting only a yes or no response. Like, do you like that? Are you interested? Is that good? Those are all closed questions. Someone can just be like, yep, that's it. The conversation's over.
Yep, start with Brynn. Okay.
Wait, can you know something about each of these humans that we don't know? None of us knows. And so you've selected them because that's gonna be the focus of the conversation.
Yep. And we have 10 minutes. It's gonna be a strict 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to learn from Alex everything you can learn, but her experience being non-binary.
Okay.
What?
Their
experience of being non-binary.
As a non-binary person, do you think that you experience the same amount of discrimination as other LGBTQ plus people?
Okay, wait, real quick. That's like a yes or no question, right?
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Just
into an open-ended
just start the question with what or how.
How have you faced discrimination?
Beautiful.
I mean, I feel like I kind of have and I haven't at the same time. Long story short, my uncle outed me to my yaya, which is Greek for grandmother. She's very religious, very conservative, and said, "Did you know your granddaughter is non-binary?" I had to do a lot of backtracking. I feel like that was the biggest thing, but otherwise, I really haven't, because it's not it is a focal point of who I am, but at the same time, it's not something I'm like, oh my God, this is me and my entire personality. It's just who I am. So if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. I've been called the F slur before, but it doesn't, at this point, I don't care.
Why do you not care? I'm just curious, because I feel like if that was me, I would care a lot.
So try to say it without why. You're doing great. Just how or what.
What makes you not care?
Really good.
At first, when I came out, I was very sensitive because it was such a big thing. I was telling my parents, and I was finally able to be who I was. And the biggest thing was presenting myself to be who I was and being comfortable. That was, I think, the biggest thing. So back then, I was very sensitive. I was very, what people will call a woke liberal. I was very much, in the sense, a woke liberal to the extreme, because I was so sensitive and protective that I was coming out of my shell. I was afraid I was gonna get shattered. As of now, though, I've kind of grown as a person, and as I'm growing, it's who I am, and I know that. And at the end of the day, I feel yes, do I want people to know and acknowledge my pronouns and acknowledge who I am? Yes, I would love that in a perfect world, but at the same time, it's not a perfect world. So I think the biggest thing is, if I know for me, and deep down, I'm staying true to who I am and identifying to who I am, then what other people say doesn't matter when it comes to my gender.
How did you know you were non-binary?
Great question.
I was really curious. I really want to know.
No, this is the first time someone's asked me this. So
Wait, that's the first time someone's asked you this?
yeah, it's the first time I've had conversations with myself about it, but I've never talked to people about it.
Are you okay answering?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess I don't know, when I was younger, I go through waves where it'd be I guess I would dress very hyper feminine and then very tomboyish for a girl. And it was just kind of how I was. My mom would call me, oh, this is my little tomboy, whatnot. Or some days I'd be oh, I want to wear a pink frolickly dress and wear heels to my 5th grade class. I don't know. But I think middle school is when I really started, because it came into a question of questioning my gender and sexuality, because I was like, at that time, puberty happened, and I was like, I'm very uncomfortable, but not in like a uncomfortable, oh my God, what is happening? I'm scared. More of a, I don't feel like a girl. And then I would like sit and ponder, and I'm like, well, do I want to be a guy? And I was like, well, not necessarily. I was like, it took a while. I didn't really know who I was until my freshman year of high school, when I learned the term non-binary, and then I Googled to what it was. And it's kind of like someone who's androgynous. You don't really identify as a girl or a guy. And I'm like, that actually describes how I feel very much well. I was like, I never felt like I fit into one category or the other. I was just kind of like in the middle. I was like that gray area that no one knows what to do with.
How does clothing like make you feel? Like, do you like prefer dressing more masculine or feminine, or
No,
just
hang on.
like?
Just how does clothing make you feel?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
That is a great question.
Can I just for everybody, the reason that we would say don't say anymore is because when you say how is clothing, and then you say is it this or this or this, it starts to narrow the conversation again. So your first question was perfect.
So clothing's always been an iffy topic, because at first I was very much so like, I don't want to say like stereotypical, but a lot of people who are non-binary tend to bind their chest. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to dress more androgynous. I don't want to look hyper feminine or hyper masculine. I also didn't really know my style at the time. I still don't. I kind of just wear whatever like fits me that day. Maybe I'll wear a dress for an event, or maybe I'm wearing like a pantsuit. Like it's very dependent, because it's not like I used to care a lot, but now it's become more of like, how do I feel, and do I like the outfit? Do I feel comfortable? Do I feel me? So I think it's more important about how I feel than like how I'm presenting myself to the world.
What has your experience at Penn State been like, being a non-binary person?
Great.
It's been a pretty positive experience. I haven't received any discrimination. I think I've received more uplifting because of it, because there's so many resources and everything. It's been a positive experience. Like, everyone I've been around has accepted who I am for what I am. Like, I don't deal with people that spread hate and negativity to me.
I'm trying to think of a good question. Have you found that people tend to like respect your pronouns and like respect like who you are?
Yes, and then no. Okay, so it's a loaded question, because when you're growing up, you're very much like a lot of stuff is genderized. You're taught boy, girl, he, her, she, him. So it's kind of hard introducing, being like, okay, use they, them, theirs, and I understand they and them are typically used for plural pronunciation when you're going to talk about it grammatically. So at first, people are accepting to it, but it's hard for them to flip that switch in their head. They don't realize it, and it's kind of like, you'll just like remind them here and there. It's the easiest thing, because as much as they are, it's hard. Like, it's almost like you're introducing something foreign to your everyday speaking.
Like a new language.
Yeah, essentially it's like a new language.
No, and I'm a good example of that, right? Lori can attest. I'm the greatest cheerleader for they, them, and yet I'm constantly tripping up. I'm like, how's that possible? I've been saying this for 20 years, you know?
I think it's actually even more, almost more than language, right? It's like a set that there's almost no other way to talk in this language anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
I guess it's just how you've been taught from English, because even when I came out and my mom was asking me, she's like, but you use that, like, you'll use that in a plural sentence, like, grammatically, like, you're taught that. And I'm like, well, try and look at it from this perspective.
And I listen to like 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds who just roll with it so fast. So in another 15 years, the conversation will just be so natural amongst so many people. Are we going
to shift?
We have another. Do you have another question?
Yeah. How did your like family and like close friends like react? Like, were they accepting?
No. How did they react?
So At first, my parents didn't know what it was. They didn't really know the term. They were like, what do you mean you're non-binary? And I had to explain. I was like, okay, well, I don't identify as a girl or guy. So they're like, are you transgender? And I went, well, yes, technically, being non-binary, you are under that transgender umbrella. But it just took a lot of like sitting down and explaining it to them. At first, they were more confused than anything, and it was a lot to process because it just like kind of came out of the blue at one point. I just kind of went, I need to tell you, like, I need to get this off my chest. My friends have been accepting, and the people that I surround myself, have been the most accepting and supportive people, and I'm forever grateful for it. It's just the hardest thing is just kind of like reminding them to flip that switch. Otherwise, they just kind of ask questions. They're like, well, what does it mean to be non-binary? How is your day-to-day life now because of it? It's just they're wanting to learn, and that like even if they mess up my pronouns one day, I know they're still learning and they care about me, so I'll let it go.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Hey,
You're amazing.
awesome questions.
Your questions and curiosity is
And
awesome.
your responses are awesome. The cool thing about this conversation is there are a lot of people who, like, we keep talking about transgender community and non-binary, people who are non-binary, but no one ever hears. We just have these ideas out there, so that's cool. Okay, let's switch. So, Alex, Brynn has a disability. Okay, so you're gonna have I'm not gonna say anything about. Oh, first off, I can't. You wrote it out. I can't remember. It's very long. So why don't you just? Okay.
What is your disability?
Okay,
Lovely.
a lot. So I have hemiplegic migraines that affect both sides of my body. So I become all four of my limbs become paralyzed, and I've had the same exact migraine since August 15th, 2021. So every single day of my life. Now, we have the paralysis under control, unless I'm very stressed or in a lot of pain from the migraines. So.
How did you find out you had this disability?
So, it was during field hockey preseason my sophomore year of high school. I was just eating lunch one day and I just couldn't move my hands, and I was like, that's bizarre. And then I kept going throughout my day and I was gaining more movement back, and then I got to field hockey practice and I couldn't move my arms, and my parents came and picked me up, and I was walking up our driveway and I just fell, and they took me to the hospital, and they initially were you have a bad headache, this is just this could be normal, you're also a girl, this could just be you having an adverse reaction. And eventually after a while we I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? I'm getting off topic, I feel like.
I was asking, how did you discover, how did you find out?
So eventually I was accepted into the Johns Hopkins Pediatric Migraine Clinic, and they diagnosed me.
How has life been with this disability?
It's
Great.
a lot of ups and downs. There are days where I feel amazing, and then there are days where I feel like absolute crap. There are some days where I don't want to get out of bed because the pain is so intense, and I don't want to see anyone. I'm embarrassed a lot about it, especially in high school. I was very ashamed. I went to a very conservative high school, so they were not understanding at all. I was called names. My field hockey team was very very not accepting of me after that. It was really tough. It's been difficult, but the past year has been amazing. I'm so happy with how far I've come.
How do you not let your disability define you?
I just try not to think about it. I really try to go about my day as normal as possible. Especially there are days where I'm in a lot of pain. I really just try to see my friends. I found that is one of the best things I can possibly do, is spend time with my friends and my boyfriend. It just makes me forget, and it makes the pain literally go away. It's crazy how that works. I think the social aspect of having a disability is very crazy. How I just feel great when I'm with other people.
So this is back to the last question. You said sometimes you're embarrassed By what do you mean by you're embarrassed?
So when I was
Hang on. That's a cool question, right? Like she said, you said something. She said something so vulnerable, embarrassed and shame, and like a lot of times we would not go back to that, but no, go right back to the heart of that. Yeah.
so I was very embarrassed because like I was called names like my first day back at school after being in the hospital, like and out of the hospital for 3 months. I think it's funny now, but someone called me a cripple crapple, and
Wait, a what?
a cripple crapple.
Cripple crapple?
Yeah. And like now I think it's hilarious, but like I went home crying that day, like, and losing field hockey was really hard for me, like, because that was my whole life. Like I played for about 12 years, and like, you know, I can't run anymore like I used to. Like I wanted to play club field hockey up here so bad, and then like I found out like I have to be able like to run and keep up. Like I was so disappointed, but like I'm just like it's very shameful, I feel like, to live like this sometimes. Like I don't know, just facing like, I'm so sorry, I'm like getting a little emotional.
No, it's okay.
Like it just feels like, especially because not people aren't understanding. Like that's what like I felt the most shame about, like in high school coming back, like because I had a cane and a walker, and that was difficult. Like people like in the hallway, like I would keep up like I would back up the hallway and people would like yell like, oh, what's taking so long? And like there are days like where that would happen. I would just go home like, and like I remember this one time the school nurse had to carry me out to my dad's car, and people saw that, and that was very embarrassing.
How have you been able to find like a positive outlet? Because I know you said you lost field hockey. So how were you able to find a positive outlet to maybe like replace field hockey for you?
I put a lot of time into my friends and my family and like my loved ones. I found like going back to what I said about like it really makes me feel better. Like the social aspect just really helps me. And like I know it sounds kind of corny, but like my dog I had at the time was like my best friend, and like I put a lot of effort into her. She was a senior pug, so I put a lot of effort into her, like making her as comfortable as I could like possibly make her. And I found that to be like really like soothing, especially like while I was like paralyzed. I found that to be like also like, you know, I found that to be really helpful. And like now I put a lot of effort into like my schoolwork. I found that to be a pretty good outlet as well, like just sitting down and focusing.
How has life been here as a student with a disability at Penn State?
There are some days where it's very hard, like getting out of bed to go to class, or like sitting in a classroom with like bright lights is really difficult for me. Or sometimes even just reading from my computer can be difficult. But I found that like the SCR has been really helpful. Like, you know, being able to have like extra time on my tests, like sitting in a dark room taking my tests, that's been really helpful.
Hey, I have a question. Just if I could, these are great questions, by the way, and you're able to really.
No, I'm good, thank you.
And you're really able to. Do you have any message for people with? Because there are other people in the classroom who have invisible disabilities, and
it really does get better. Like I know, like at like the peak of it, it seems to be the worst thing like ever, but it really does get better. Like I am beyond happy with like where I am now, and like living with a disability is really hard, but like it does get better.
Cool.